Close your eyes for a moment, just for a moment, and imagine stepping back 1,000 years in time. A world with no electricity, no cars, no phones, no internet. As soon as the sun dipped below the horizon, a profound darkness swallowed everything. The only light came from the silvery moon, or perhaps the faint, flickering glow of a small oil lamp. Life back then wasn't about comfort. It was about raw, unfiltered survival. 1,000 years ago, the world was a tapestry of villages. Cities were rare jewels, and even when they existed, they were small, crowded, and encircled by tall, imposing walls for protection. For the ordinary person, home was a humble structure built from mud, wood, stone, and straw. These simple dwellings baked like ovens under the scorching summer sun and felt like iceboxes during the freezing winter nights. When it rained, the roofs leaked. When storms raged, the walls shook. A sense of safety was a luxury, never a guarantee. People rose before the sun, not by choice, but by absolute necessity. The day began with grueling, back-breaking labor. Farmers toiled in the fields, guiding wooden plows pulled by weary oxen. Their hands blistered, their backs were permanently bent, and their bodies screamed with exhaustion. But stopping was simply not an option. Because without the crops, there was no food, and without food, there was no life. The rain decided everything. It was the ultimate arbiter of fate. If it arrived on time, there was food on the table. If it didn't, there was hunger, then famine, then death. Entire families lived on a fragile thread of hope, praying that the next season would be kinder, more generous. Sometimes whole villages vanished from the map, wiped out because there simply wasn't enough to eat. Food itself was simple and severely limited. People ate what they could grow with their own hands, grains like wheat and barley, lentils, root vegetables, and perhaps some milk from a goat or cow. Meat was a rare and precious luxury, reserved only for festivals or the most special of occasions. Many days passed with just one small meal, and some days passed with none at all. Yet, even on an empty stomach, people went to sleep believing that tomorrow might, just might, bring something better. Clothing wasn't about fashion or self-expression. It was purely about survival. Garments were handmade from whatever was available: wool from sheep, rough cotton, or treated animal skins. A single outfit could be worn for months, sometimes even years, patched and repaired until it fell apart. Owning a new set of clothes was a moment of immense joy, and having clean clothing was often seen as a sign of wealth and status. Education was not for everyone. The ability to read and write was a privilege, a skill reserved for kings, religious scholars, and the very wealthy. Ordinary people learned through doing, through experience. Fathers taught their sons their trades, passing down skills from one generation to the next: the art of the blacksmith, the craft of the carpenter, the timeless knowledge of the farmer. This wisdom wasn't written in books. It was etched into memory and muscle. But the greatest fear of all was disease. There were no hospitals as we know them, no doctors with stethoscopes and sterile equipment, no modern medicine to fight off infection. A simple fever, a cough, or an infected cut could quickly become the death sentence. People relied on ancient knowledge of herbs, the wisdom of village healers, homemade remedies, and above all, prayer. The loss of a child was a tragically common event, and reaching old age was considered a remarkable blessing from the heavens. Travel was slow, arduous, and fraught with danger. People walked for hundreds of miles, or if they were fortunate, rode horses or camels. Some took to the water in simple boats. A journey between two cities could take weeks, even months. The roads were not safe highways. They were treacherous paths filled with bandits, wild animals, and potentially hostile groups. To leave your home, your village, was to accept the very real risk that you might never return. Society was harsh and deeply divided. Power rested in the hands of kings, lords, and landowners. Ordinary people lived under their absolute control, their lives dictated by the whims of the powerful. Justice often favored the strong, while the weak and the poor had little voice and even less recourse. Heavy taxes, forced labor, and unquestioning obedience were the inescapable realities of daily life. and war was a constant shadow looming over everything. Power was defined by the sharp edges of swords, the points of spears, and the flight of arrows. Common people were often forced to fight and die in conflicts they didn't start, for causes they may not have believed in, all at the command of their rulers. Death was always close, sometimes expected on the battlefield, sometimes arriving suddenly in the night. In this world of hardship, religion and belief were the bedrock of strength. They were the source of hope when all else failed. People prayed for rain to save their crops. They believed illness was a test of their faith, and they saw natural disasters as divine judgment. Religious festivals and community gatherings were often the only moments of true joy and celebration, offering a brief, precious escape from the relentless struggle of reality. This was life 1,000 years ago. It was not easy. It was not safe. It was certainly not comfortable. But it was a life filled with an incredible, unyielding resilience. It was a life defined by patience and forged by sheer determination. Today, we sleep in comfortable beds, but they dreamed of a better world while sitting on the hard ground. We live surrounded by convenience they could never have imagined, but they survived through a struggle we can barely comprehend. And perhaps, just perhaps, it is their struggle, their endurance, and their silent hope that built the foundations of the world we live in today. Thank you for watching. If this journey into the past moved you, consider subscribing for more stories that connect us to where we came from.